I just finished 2 videos. The first being Nate Edwardson's The Dark Ages of CrossFit, and the second being Andrew Hiller's video that CrossFit is dead. And to some degree, I think they're both right. We'll start first with Nate Edwardson because there really isn't a lot to unpack here. He has this video that says The Dark Ages of CrossFit. I think it's a total exaggeration. What he's actually talking about is it's the off season.
What I would call the dark ages of CrossFit. I've been doing this for 3 years, YouTube in the CrossFit world. After like Rogue, it really just starts to slow down and it doesn't really pick back up till the open. And I don't know, I feel like it's the perfect time to take a little break.
Dark Ages makes you think that it's this long period of time right now that CrossFit is going through that is less profitable or something, but it happens every year. Off season, it happens for all sports and all media outlets that cover a specific sport. I follow a college basketball podcast and they post their videos on YouTube, and during the summer they get so few views. It's insane compared to their winter in-season videos, and that's just the nature of sports. So not sure about that title, but he is right, it is the off season and things are slower. But that leads into Andrew Hiller's video that he made in reaction to what he saw in Nate Edwardson's video, and he takes it a bit broader, talking about CrossFit as a whole.
CrossFit is dead. It's dead. Andrew, you're a hater. All right, well, how about it's dying? It's been dying.
But before he gets into that, he does talk about how Nate Edwardson is now making these YouTube videos that are more about golf as opposed to CrossFit. He has a second channel all about golf, and that channel seems to be doing better when it comes to views. And part of that is just golf is bigger. CrossFit has been around for a very, very short period of time compared to golf. I don't know anything about golf. I certainly know less than Nate Edwardson, likely know a lot less than Andrew Hiller too. But you know what? I've heard of the Masters because the Masters has been around since 1934. So because lots of people have heard of this that don't even know much about the sport, yeah, it's gonna get more eyes.
Golf. He's talking about golf. Same exact formula with much more water. I brought up water in the beginning. Remember, CrossFit, we're on day 3 or day 4. We're gonna make it to day 7 and then we're out. We're dead. All of us are dead. Over in golf world, you got one of those ice mountain things that's just never ending, and it's like, wow, is this thing ever gonna run out of water?
So I looked it up on Wikipedia while editing this, and it says the first recorded golf-like game happened in February of 1297. It also shows a piece of art from 1540 depicting a golf-like sport. Golf has been around a lot longer than CrossFit and most other major sports. So yes, it is likely to be more profitable than CrossFit and get more views than a CrossFit video. I'm not sure that this should be used to argue that CrossFit is dying. They're kind of hard to compare.
But then Hiller gets into really the meat of why this could be the end of CrossFit or CrossFit being dead, which is something that has been talked about throughout the space for several years. And I think a lot of it stems from the media and lack thereof around CrossFit. CrossFit media used to be incredible in my opinion. This is all my opinion, by the way. This is just my take on the situation. But I used to love CrossFit media. I used to check the CrossFit Games YouTube page pretty much daily to see what new things they were posting. It was one of my biggest hobbies, just checking the CrossFit YouTube page. I never check the CrossFit Games YouTube page. And really it is the CrossFit Games page that I remember having more of the content. The CrossFit YouTube page still posts all the time, but it's more like workout of the day stuff, where the CrossFit Games was really where the content and the storytelling was happening. And we're not seeing as much of that anymore. A lot of what they're posting is just repeat stuff from the past. I see it pop up as a new video and I'm like, this is an event that happened 3, 4, 8 years ago, and I don't care.
All they do is regurgitate stuff from the days in which the content was actually good, or they cover their own stuff, and you might as well be Nate Edwardson at that point.
And the bigger thing is, it's not really feeding into the human interest aspect of it. Hiller points out this video of Josh Bridges doing this workout years ago that had 2.3 million views on it and a ton of comments of people saying this inspired them to do CrossFit. And part of that is the names. Hiller does touch on this too. It's those names, the people that they're interested in. And you need to bring in some sort of human interest, in my opinion, especially when you're making media and videos and content creation, for more people to be interested in it. It's part of what I do here on my channel. I definitely make myself a part of these videos and my story and vlogs and things like that. And even my work life, I will link a video of one of those here if you've never seen one. But I do show different things because CrossFit, we don't know what the future of CrossFit is. So maybe if it does die, I'll still be doing fitness, and I hopefully will still have some of the CrossFit methodology in that. I believe in the methodology. I think that's so important, but it could die from the elite side and the media side of it because they don't have a media team. When they fired that media team in 2018, I believe it was, that changed the trajectory of CrossFit.
What's the parallel between 3 years ago and any of the 1 million view videos on the CrossFit main YouTube channel? Firing the media team, getting rid of Sevon. This isn't a huge pitch for him, by the way.
But even though they rehired some people, they're not putting the same effort behind the media as they have in the past. And I think that is so important. When we're talking about Greg Glassman, who I believe was not super supportive of all the crazy media attention, but that's how he's going to get his methodology out. That's how more people are going to learn about CrossFit. The media is so important. That's why we all know these athletes, whether it's media like YouTube or social media like Instagram or TikTok. That's media. That is still media. Even if it's social media, it's still an aspect of media. And that is so important for growing the sport and for having success long term. So taking money out of that, taking employees out of that hurt CrossFit. And if they don't continue to try to build that, and I think they are to some degree trying to build that more than they were in the past right after they fired those people. If they don't build that though, it could be the end of CrossFit. Hiller also talks about how many of the athletes now are creating their own YouTube channel. And that even says something about the importance of media and getting their messages out there. That's how they're going to sell their products. That's how they're going to bring in more sponsorships to themselves. There's just so much benefit in that. And I think that the athletes really have to appreciate the media. I worked on the media team at the games a couple times as a volunteer, and once at regionals, I believe too. So I have some experience in that realm. And I remember working back in 2018 in Madison at the games, and I had to wrangle some of the athletes for interviews. So after the event was over, they're all trying to leave and go cool down. I know that's important for their athletic endeavors, but so is the media. That's how they're going to get their sponsorships. That's how they're going to improve their legacy and also improve how much money they can bring in. It's just, and improve the sport. It's really important to do the media aspect of this. So after the crit event, I believe Kristen Holta was one of the people who won it. And I had to go get her for an interview. And it was crazy far away from where they were actually doing the interviews that the crit event ended. So I had to jog over to find her. I found her and was like, hey, I'm on the media team. You need to do an interview. And she was so willing to do it, so ready to do it. And since it was so far away, and because it was airing on YouTube and some of the stuff aired, I believe that was after they had switched from ESPN to CBS, which is where I believe they still do stuff, CBS Sports. But I believe it was airing as well. So there are hard times. There are commercial breaks. That is how media makes money. That is why athletes that play in sports that air on TV make so much money. It's those commercial breaks. So there is a certain time frame that I need to get this interview in. So I'm like, we have to jog. We have to jog back. I know you just finished this crit event. We got to jog to this interview so you can do it and so we don't miss slot. And she was totally willing to do it. No problems, no issues, no arguing, no fighting about it. No like, I got to get back and cool down. Totally willing, which is important for the sport because those faces, those winners, they excite people and they bring more eyes to the sport. Then the next event was the 30 muscle-ups for time. And Matt Frazier, I believe, finished in third in that event. He didn't win it, But because he finished in third and because of how he had done at the crit event, he was now either in first or tied for first or close to first place overall. And because of that, they wanted me to grab him for the interview. And this is only on the field in Madison. So it's a much smaller arena than where we had to run for the crit event. And when I went to go get him, the woman who I was working with was like, don't ask Matt to run. Matt doesn't run. Just have him walk over slowly. So also, like, with the timing, with the importance of the media team and the media exposure for these athletes and for the sport, it was just kind of like, wait, he doesn't want to do any of this? Like, I have to like beg him to do it and then he's not going to want to come over. And I get that he's very focused on winning and I respect that, but I also think that the media is an important part of building this sport. So I went over to get him and his first response was, why do you want me? I'm just like a volunteer. And he's like, why do you want me? And I said, because your placing puts you in first, I believe. That's from memory, but I believe he was in first at that point. And we want to talk to you because you're now first and in the lead. And he like didn't want to do it. And he was dragging his feet and like slowly walking across the field. And again, I get that he has to go cool down and has to focus on the next event, but media is so important. When we talk about CrossFit dying, having athletes that don't want to do the media is not going to help build the sport. And I think that he is a better, from my experience, again, just from what this is just from what I've observed, it seems like he's much more into the media now that he's retired and he's not competing anymore and he's willing to go to certain competitions and talk. At Dubai, he was doing some of the announcing and commentating, so that was pretty cool. So it is good to see that he's doing more stuff, and he has his own YouTube channel now as well. So it does seem like he's more into the media, but when he was competing, he wasn't as into it. And I'll say it again. The media is so, so important for building any sport, not just CrossFit, but CrossFit right now, who could be possibly, who knows, dying from what some people have said and observed. And I even have felt it to some degree with how the media has changed. Media exposure and having more media, having more eyes on these athletes, showing more people the incredible things they can do, that's what's going to bring more eyes onto the sport. That's what's going to bring more people into the sport. That's what's going to get kids learning to do this at an earlier age and into the sport earlier, which we are starting to see a little bit with Emma Lawson and Mal O'Brien, but even more of it. I mean, if you look at like major sports like basketball and football, these kids have balls in their hands at 2. CrossFit's lifespan is going to be shorter if we don't have people excited about the sport. And I think that media is one of the most important ways to get people excited about the sport. This may all be my bias because I work in media, but I do believe media has a ton of power, and just exposing people to the sport is going to make such a huge difference in keeping CrossFit alive. And CrossFit Games just regurgitating old videos and not putting up anything exciting or anything with any human interest, that's not going to help. And I think that we really need to start to see more people trying to do more things that are going to get people excited about the sport. But right now is not a super great example of that because, like Nate Edwardson said, we are in the dark ages, or more accurately, the off season, and a lot of athletes aren't doing as much, but maybe it is an opportunity. Maybe they can get in there and talk to these athletes when they have more time because they're not in the gym as long, and talk to them about what they do on the off season and how they're prepping for next year. There is so much content out there, and there are so many ways you can get people excited about the upcoming CrossFit Games season, which starts in February with the Open. And I think it's so important that we continue to try to get people in there and not let CrossFit die. But I also think it's important to diversify. And that's why I have videos that aren't just CrossFit related. And like I said, fitness will always be a part of my life and always be a part of this channel. But if it evolves because CrossFit evolves, then that might be the future. I hope not. I do hope CrossFit continues to grow and sees itself past this time. We saw open registration peak, then we saw it dip, especially when we had those 2 opens in 1 year. That was not great. And it has gone back up. I hope to see it continue to go up this year. Maybe it will. There is definitely more media going on at CrossFit HQ than there was, after they fired everyone in 2018. So maybe there's a chance we're starting to see a rebuild. That's my hope. I hope that the most dead time is technically behind us, especially now that we're going back to like a regionals format with the semifinals, very much based on your country of citizenship. So I'm excited for that. And I think maybe that'll have a positive impact with the North America East and North America West semifinals. I think that's going to be better than having a bunch all over the place and no one knowing where they're going. So maybe there are some things being fixed. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm excited to see what's happening next with the season and what's happening next with the, hopefully, rebirth in the future of CrossFit. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it and subscribe. I'm doing all these different videos like I mentioned and trying to keep you all entertained and informed. So I appreciate you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.